Welcome to this week's edition of The Week That Was, where we review the top content as published on whatelectricalnews.com throughout the week. A former electrician from France has kept 271 works of art from Picasso in his garage for close to 40 years. Pierre, the former electrician, worked for Picasso in the 1970s when Picasso's wife at the time had given him a satchel of sketches and drawings which he put in his garage. In 2010, Pierre took the works of art to the Picasso administration to be authenticated, and that's when alarm bells rang. Picasso's son Claude, who runs the administration, does not believe his father would have given the man such a gift and filed a complaint of theft against Pierre. The artworks date back to between 1900 and 1930, and most of them were not signed. The parents of teenager Jayden Zapparelli, who was electrocuted 2 days after beginning work as an electrical trades assistant, are campaigning for safety switches to be compulsory for circuits in all homes, claiming the device would have prevented their son's death. Jayden had been working for an electrical company in WA for 2 days when he accompanied a licensed electrician to a home to install a chandelier. The young assistant climbed into the roof to grab a cable which had not been isolated and was electrocuted. Currently, RCDs are compulsory only for new homes and rental properties, and now Jayden's father is lobbying the government to make them mandatory in all homes. The National Health and Medical Council on Wednesday released its final report on evidence about whether wind turbines can cause health issues. The NHMRC said there is poor quality evidence to suggest that wind farm noise or living close to a wind farm may be linked to annoyance and, to a lesser extent, disrupted sleep and a poorer quality of life. Since the introduction of the renewable energy target in 2000, the number of wind farms in Australia has increased significantly, and at the end of 2013 there were 68 wind farms across the country. Anti-wind farm group the Waubra Foundation argues that turbines can cause health effects at up to 10 kilometres away. They claim the turbines can cause a wide range of problems, including insomnia, headaches and dizziness. The Professor of Public Health at Sydney University studied 129 individuals who had complained about turbines for noise or health reasons and found that a large majority of complaints were made after 2009, when anti-wind farm groups began to add health concerns to their wider opposition. In the preceding years, health and noise complaints were very rare despite large and small turbine farms having operated for many years. Unemployment in Australia rose to its highest level for 13 years in January to a rate of 6.4%. The figure was much worse than what economists expected. Although the jobless rate rose in most states, South Australia was the most affected, where the unemployment rate climbed to 7.3% in January from 6.6% previously. New South Wales rose to 6.3% from 6% in December, while Victoria rose to 6.6%, up from 6.2%. Queensland was up to 6.5% from 6.2%, however WA fell to 5.6% from 5.9%, and Tasmania remained unchanged at 6.6%. Jacobs Engineering Group has secured an engineering services agreement from ConocoPhillips to support the Sustaining Capital Program for the Australian Pacific LNG facility. The facility features 2 LNG trains, with the first LNG export from the project's initial train to be expected in mid-2015, with Train 2 anticipated in 2016. Jacobs will be carrying out engineering studies and will provide front-end engineering design services and detailed design, including procurement, commissioning and construction support. Origin Energy and ConocoPhillips each own a 36.5% stake in the Australian Pacific LNG joint venture, with the remaining 25% held by Sinopec. Underground safety staff at BHP Billiton's Olympic Dam were made redundant 2 weeks before a worker was killed underground, compromising the safety of other staff. CFMEU State Secretary Aaron Cartledge said he had learned of the reduction in safety personnel monitoring underground operations at the Olympic Dam site. BHP said that no changes to staff levels had been made since it announced redundancies and redeployments at the company in January. Safe Work SA and BHP are investigating the death of Mr Partington, which occurred on Tuesday morning when he was struck in the chest by falling rocks. Both Safe Work SA and BHP will not disclose any further details about the incident, and work at the mine remains suspended while the investigation continues. Sandfire Resources, which owns the Degrusa mine in the far north goldfields of WA, plans to soon house one of the largest off-grid solar PV power systems of its kind in the world. The mine will integrate the 10.6 megawatt solar array with its existing 20 megawatt diesel power station. The solar array, inverters and batteries will cover an area of around 18 to 20 hectares, equivalent to the size of 11 Melbourne cricket grounds. Workers at electricity companies Ausgrid and Endeavour Energy have voted in support of industrial action, including possible work stoppages and strikes, as they fight for improved job security provisions in light of privatisation plans. In a postal ballot conducted by the Australian Electrical Commission, 95% of Ausgrid staff and 86% of Endeavour Energy staff voted in support of work stoppages. The vote allows workers at both companies to take a range of lawful industrial actions, including strikes, bans on non-emergency call-outs and refusals to disconnect customers who won't pay bills. The Electrical Trades Union said negotiations had soured after Ausgrid and Endeavour Energy asked staff to accept cuts to working conditions and entitlements that would see reductions to their take-home pay. The Abbott government has now indicated it is ready to provide greater support for science and technology following recommendations indicated in the 2014 report by Professor Ian Chubb. In his report, Professor Chubb called for a national plan to improve Australia's competitiveness through science and innovation. According to a recent research from PricewaterhouseCoopers Australia, the economy will no longer be included in the top 20 of the world's largest economies, as Australia is predicted to drop from 19th to 29th position by 2050. Matt Bari, one of the country's top technology entrepreneurs, said that unless the Australian government will change the way it views skills in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, it will continue to fall in the world economy rankings. More than 200 workers have been made redundant as a result of Langer Heureaux losing a $215 million contract at Roy Hill Mine after a commercial dispute with head contractor Samsung C&T. Langer Heureaux was in charge of electrical and instrumentation works as well as mechanical and structural construction for the massive mine. The $10 billion iron ore mine is due for completion in September this year. The project includes a 55 million tonne iron ore mine, 344 kilometres of railway and a new port at Port Hedland. 1 year after its spectacular collapse, the insolvency specialists chasing funds for creditors for Forge Group have some wins but face lengthy disputes with some of the engineering company's biggest former clients. Forge's directors called in administrators on February 11, 2014, after it failed to recover from disastrous losses from its power station projects. Within days, 1,500 employees had been sacked and $1.5 billion of contracts lost. The contractor had estimated debts of $800 million, including about $300 million owed to secured financiers, ANZ Bank, QBE and Accenture. Receivers and managers KordaMentha claim Forges owed $300 million in security bonds seized by clients after the collapse and up to $100 million for completed project work. Australia faces a $17 billion exodus of investment from its wind farm industry because of a political deadlock threatening to deal the country a major economic blow and kill hopes of meeting a self-imposed clean energy target. Some 44 Australian wind farm projects, about half overseas funded, have been shelved since the new Conservative government said it wanted to cut state support for the industry a year ago, with investors and operators saying they are considering either downsizing or leaving the country altogether if it succeeds. Even Australian wind farm companies such as Infigen Energy and Pacific Hydro have effectively shelved their Australian operations, with Infigen saying it plans to pour all of its financial muscle into a more amenable US market. It was the Newman government's greatest hope for Queensland's economy, a proposal for Australia's biggest coal development unprecedented in scale. Indian billionaire Gautam Adani's Mammoth Carmichael coal mine in the Queensland Galilee Basin is pledged to bring with it 10,000 jobs and $22 billion in taxes and royalties. However, the project now faces massive political uncertainty in the wake of seismic state election results, just as a Fairfax media investigation has unearthed details about Adani's business dealings, including fraud allegations, the use of tax havens, and issues of transparency that some argue mean the endeavour warrants much greater scrutiny. Fairfax Media has found a complex web of companies tied to Adani's Australian coal developments, extending from the low-tax regime of Singapore to the tax haven of the Cayman Islands. Company documents also suggest uncertainty about the ultimate ownership of the Abbott Point development, which has attracted global scrutiny and fierce criticism from the environmental movement because of its closeness to the Great Barrier Reef. It is yet not known what will happen to the development, but time will tell. And that's it for this week's edition of The Week That Was.